What's up, y'all? Welcome to the Tomboy podcast. I'm your host, Kristen Miles, and I'm joined by my guest and co-host. I don't know why I just said that other than habit, so we're just going to keep rolling with it. Co-host, capital C, Leila Martone Smith. How you doing?
That's me. I'm fantastic, girl. Fantastic. It's
Yeah,
been a
me too.
good
I was
Monday.
so pumped to see that message last night that I sent you from our
Yeah.
girlfriend. It felt so
Yes,
good.
yes.
Y'all, please let us know what you think about the podcast. We are really enjoy doing it, and we want to know what you want to hear. So please feel free. The line of communication is very open.
Open. Very, very open. And it does feel good. The first episode there wasn't a lot of structure to it, anything. It was us kind of giving you guys the vibe, letting you know if you really want to vibe with us, which you do. So be prepared. It's going to get more and more structured but I'm glad that we're having positive feedback and it's really exciting. And we're just so pumped to do this with our little community of people.
Yeah. Badass bitches.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yes, honey.
Okay, so
And men
today,
too.
yeah, well, absolutely. I definitely know there are a handful of men I could think of right off the top of my head that listen, and I love that. I want them to. I think they're cool. They're respectful. They can hang out, and obviously they can ask questions as well. Today we are going to be touching on being 40 or in our 40s, approaching the decade, how we initially thought about it, what we were expecting, how it actually has ended up being so far for both of us since we are about to be 42. And yeah, I think that to really get a good idea of the evolution, we need to start in our 20s, maybe closer to the beginning of our sexual
Mm,
journey, or however you want to put that.
life journey, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's touch on the good and the bad. Let's touch on the good. The good about our 20s was everything is forgivable. Everything is expected. You're supposed to make dumb mistakes. You're supposed to be a little reckless. You're supposed to do things that later on you look back on like, ugh, okay. And it's okay because you're in your 20s. We're in college or, pursuing whatever dreams we're pursuing at the time, and everything is forgivable. So that's the positive of our 20s. The negative of our 20s is I had no idea who I was at 21, 22, 25 even. I mean, I started my teaching career. I was like, who am I? Who am I to tell these children who are 5 years younger than me what to do? And then I just got put, like last week we talked about, got put into that box. So I had to like live my wild 20s because it was a lot of wildness and a lot of partying. But then also I had this career going on, which I couldn't be that person. So for me, my 20s were exhausting. I loved it. I had a lot of fun, but it was exhausting fun, you know?
When you speak about the fun you were having in your 20s not aligning with your job and your career that you had chosen at the time and it being exhausting, that was how I felt with bodybuilding, because I loved it so much, and have always loved bodybuilding. My dad and I would watch bodybuilding competitions on TV when I was little, and I loved Arnold Schwarzenegger, and muscles were just a big part of Paul Stanley had muscles. Like, I just
Yeah.
really thought muscles were cool. And I had muscles, but it just wasn't, I don't know, they were so functional at that point because you're just swimming, you're in a pool, you're trying to be faster, or whatever the case is. But like coming into my 20s, I was like, wow, now I'm also hot.
Yeah.
I did
Yes.
not, I just wasn't, I don't know. I guess maybe I could have been a hot teenager and didn't know it, but I didn't like feel sexy until I was much older. And that had
I
everything
mean,
to do with taking control of my body in the gym and learning things and empowering myself and being like, oh, wait a
let
minute.
me,
When that guy said, oh, where's that girl with the legs? That was a good thing, not something I should have not come out of the
no.
bathroom of the bowling alley for half an hour. You know what I mean? I did that in like eighth or ninth grade. I was with Rebecca Galloway. Should we not say names? I think it's
Mm,
fine. Yeah.
it's
I was
fine.
with
Hey,
Rebecca.
Rebecca.
Yeah, hey. I was with Rebecca at the bowling alley with some of our boyfriends, and like hanging out like we did. And this guy says, well, where's the girl with the legs? And I overheard him say it, and I had these orange shorts on. I will never forget it. I had these orange shorts on from American Eagle and a little orange tank top striped, and I was super muscular. I was so tan. I probably looked so beautiful looking back on it. But I just
Mm-hmm.
heard it and ended up sitting in the freaking bathroom for like half an hour
Oh,
hoping he would leave. I don't
oh,
think I've ever
and
even told anybody that entire story.
But let me stop you there because you were always like, don't get a picture in your head that Kristen wasn't beautiful. She just didn't even realize her beauty in high school. You
I
know,
was a
like everybody
tomboy.
thought she was a tomboy. You know, I bought her her first makeup, you know, for her
Black
birthday one year.
radiance.
Yes.
I will never forget.
Girl, I had to give you a little because you were so tan
Ever.
all the time, girl.
I know. You were like, look, this are the only colors that look good on my skin. And you were the same color as me. So I'm like, okay.
Right, we were so tan.
We were so tan.
Right.
Now I wish I had a tan.
It's
Okay,
coming.
so 20s and 30s or 20s, I think you are figuring stuff out. You're realizing your power, you're starting to get a little taste of it and probably using it in the wrong direction or using it in a
Right.
bad way. Um I know, I mean, I'm sure I used it to my advantage at a
Of
certain
course.
point. However, we women do.
Hmm. And still a little
um
bit, you know.
but 30s for me was more of like okay, now I've got this idea of, the power that I do have.
Hmm.
Now I'm starting to explore the boundaries of, well, what can I do with it? What
Hmm.
can I create with it? How far can I take it? Can I build a career? Who's going to help me build my life with it? Am I going to get married? Because you start
Mm.
thinking, oh, I'm not 30. I'm almost 30. Didn't you have that thought? Should I be
Oh
married? Am
yeah.
I getting married? Do I want to get married?
And so many of our friends at that time, at
We're
the end of
already.
college or the end of 25, 26, they're getting married, they're having babies, and I was like, I don't really know if I want any of that.
I
But
know.
at that age, it wasn't okay back then to not want that. I mean, even
Yep.
today, I get asked, well, why don't you have children? What's wrong with
Yep.
you? And I'm like, first of all, that is none of your business. Second of all, why can't I just not want? I have stepkids who I adore with my soul. That's all I need. I don't need my
I
own. I
know.
don't need to grow nothing. I'm good. I'm good.
Well, I just can count on one hand with probably two fingers the number of times in my life that I felt the desire from within my soul that
Mm.
it was so fleeting.
Just,
It was so fleeting that it was not enough for me. It wasn't enough
yeah.
for me. And it could be that I met Gabe later on in life. It could be that we have so much fun and so much going on that I just am too preoccupied to think about it. But I think if it were innate within me, I was born to have children and it was a
Hmm.
strong desire, then I would know already. And I still don't count it out. I know that sounds silly, but I still think adoption is always an option. There are women
Hmm.
every day, my age and older, having children, healthy
Hmm.
children. And I just have still not felt any pressure to do that internally. I hear it from other people, but like my mother in law dropped off a rocking chair on my porch probably less than a year after Gabe and I got married with a note saying how nice it was to rock babies in it.
Oh, wow. Okay. Okay. You
So I
know,
took
and this
with her
thing
that
is,
my
I
fur
kept,
babies would love it.
right, the dogs love it, right? I mean, I kept waiting. My sister has three kids and I adore them. And being an aunt is the greatest thing. It is my greatest role in life. And I kept thinking, well, it's gonna happen. It's gonna happen. That gene is gonna activate, and I'm gonna just all of a sudden want to birth and grow and develop and marinate a child inside of my body, and it just never ever happened. Like I was afraid because I was like, what if it happens too late? But it's just not it's just not for me. But I get it. I see the beauty in it. I see how creating
Absolutely.
this life, it's amazing. But I can love other people's children and
Absolutely.
stepchildren and nieces and nephews just the same. So,
Absolutely.
okay, okay, right, right. And if that's their choice, that's their choice. You know, like I
For
don't.
sure.
Some people just
For
don't want that.
sure.
Any,
For
you know,
sure. But
it's okay.
I think parenthood is one of those things where it's when you're in the middle of it, it's like, rah, but it's gratifying because you're,
Yeah,
ah,
yeah. For this child you created, you know,
yes,
I get it. I get it. I
yes,
totally get it.
yes. And having Danica as my stepchild, she is the coolest. I couldn't have asked for more. The older she gets, the more fun we have, and the more she can
Hmm.
see my side of the not story, but my side of the street and what my view is and why I've been able to kind of separate myself or pull myself out of certain situations
Hmm.
to keep the whole collective healthy and communicative and things like that. So yeah, I mean having kids is great and they are rewarding even as stepchildren. So I don't
Right,
personally feel that I need to have something come out of my birth canal.
right. But it's fine. We're
Yeah,
good.
and like I said, I still don't count it out. I mean, if that light bulb hit me tomorrow, I'm gonna go with it. I will always listen to my gut, but my gut has not screamed at me to do that any more than yours has. So the
Right,
30s would not bring that. What do you feel like
right.
your 30s have evolved into?
I mean, in my 30s, I took this leap of faith and packed 2 suitcases and moved across the world. So the thought of kids and marriage went so far out the door. I literally just said, I'm done with the situation I'm in, and I packed 2 suitcases and left. And I learned more about myself through that transition than I ever thought I would. I mean, I think I'm a totally different person if I hadn't taken that opportunity. I would be a completely different person today. And I love the person I've grown into. I mean, I explored half of the world, because of my location, everything was so close. So my development in my 30s was on a global scale and it was amazing. And I met so many amazing women who were in the same predicament. They weren't married, they were in their 30s. They decided to take this leap of faith. And so it was such a support system that that need or that that pressure from society of why aren't you married, why don't you have kids, I was surrounded by women in the same situation, so it was amazing. But every time I would go home in the summer or winter, my 2 times coming home, the first question is, oh, well, have you met anybody? Well, so are you just not going to get married, or you don't want kids, you're going to be too old to have. And I'm like, gee, like, I just got back from Bali last weekend, like, leave me alone, let me live. But so my 30s were a discovery phase of just enlightenment and life. So I don't know if I would be maybe married with kids if I'd stayed in the United States, but I don't.
No, I don't know that things would have been much different. I never thought that I would get married, and I met Gabe randomly and I saw him sitting on a bodybuilding stage and was like, that one, I want that one.
That's
He's
the one.
coming home with me. And that was all there was to that. So yeah, I had never thought about it. And it wasn't until Gabe and I had been together about 2 months and we were riding down the road and I looked at him and I was like, will you marry me? Just kind of being cute, are you going to marry me? And he was like, don't play. And like a week later, we were engaged, and 3 or 4 months later, we were married. We just knew. And I
Mm-hmm.
think a lot of times you do know, and I would encourage all of the younger women to listen to your gut. If you don't have
Mm-hmm.
any, my gynecologist said, you just need to drink a glass of wine and do it. Well, this is a pretty big decision. And I don't really
Right.
know that it's one of those that I want to just toss wine back. Plus, I don't drink.
Right. So there's that.
It's funny.
I mean,
Such
I
a
I thought, right.
flippant way to handle that whole conversation.
Right. And yeah, I've heard numerous comments from gynecologists, and I'm like, it's just not what I want. But yes, you
They
do. As
want
a
that
woman, I'm
money.
like, yes, honey, yes, they do. I mean, same for me. Like, I got to a point where I was so happy alone that I was like, I'm coming up on my 40s. I'm single. I feel good about myself. I love my life. I love the people I'm surrounded by. I love the opportunities in front of me. So I told myself, I had a conversation with my dad actually, like 4 or 5 years ago. We were sitting up in Hungary at his little river house, cutting up some fish as per usual. And he looked at me and he said, "You know what?" He said, I'm not worried about you anymore." And I said, what are you talking about?" He said, "I was thinking the other day, it took me 64 years to find the love of my life. And now my dad and his wife are in love like two teenagers. I've never, I mean, affection and touching and cuddles and kisses. I mean, just who are you?" And he told me, he said, I was talking to my wife the other day and I said, "You know what? Leela's going to be okay." He said, "One day some man is just going to drop into your life and you will have zero doubt and you will have zero questions and you will just know." And that's what happened with my husband. I mean, I met him at 39 years old. Wait, how old was I? 39 years old. And within what, 11 months we were engaged, 12 months we were married. No, not even. God, seven and whatever. Anyway,
Yeah.
very, very soon. We knew.
Yeah.
I knew a month into it that
Yep.
this is it. So
Yeah. So
I
wait.
guess I guess 40s.
Yeah.
Yes, wait. And if it happens in your 20s or 30s, but
Awesome.
unless you know, just
Killer.
wait. It'll come. It'll come. I mean, my dad was 64, and now they've been married 12 years now and just living their best life. So, yep.
All right, so tell me, what did you think 40 and being 40 was going to mean to you? What did you think
Actually,
you were
when
going to look like?
God, I thought a 40-year-old woman, when we were teenagers or even in our 20s, I thought a 40-year-old woman is kind of the point in life where you give up. The point in life where you no longer put on the lashes, you no longer wear hot pink nails. I'm not saying give up like turn into an old lady, but you just kind of, you start wearing the 3D sweaters and you start wearing the little knit tops from Kohl's and stuff like that. I mean, I remember our parents at our age, like they
3D
were grown-ups.
sweaters.
They got little patches and little
I
little
guess.
fluff. So I thought I'd be wearing 3D sweaters. Clearly not. Okay. But I just thought that by 40, you would have everything figured out. You're this like grown up that is just, just directed. Life is in one direction and there's no changes and there's no, you know, discoveries or new things that you want to do. You just are 40 something and then now you live the rest of your life. But
Yeah,
clearly,
absolutely. I did. I thought this is just all right. You spend your 20s and your 30s setting up the foundation, and then you live in the same house the rest of your life. You have the same career the rest of your life. You're married to the same person, hopefully the rest of your life,
right.
and you have some kids, a dog. I mean, we both thought that. But what is so funny to me is neither one of us had mothers that are like that or were like that.
Right.
Your mom was
Right.
super hot when we were in high school.
Yeah. Yeah, she still
Super
is,
hot.
Yeah.
Absolutely. She was, dolled up wearing dresses, and my mom is
Right.
no different. She's always done, if she's leaving the house, she doesn't go to the mailbox without putting lipstick on.
Mm,
And so I think that's cool. And it's obviously part of why we were able to see a different path for ourselves. Our
hmm.
mothers had done it a little
Right.
differently.
I mean, my grandma always said a woman never leaves the house not looking nice and smelling nice because you never know what's going to happen. And
You never
that was
know.
ingrained in my soul. My mom and my mom's nails and feet have been done. I've never seen her without nail polish on. She's
Yep.
always presented herself as a woman. And
Yep.
I believe that no matter if you're 50, 60, 70, 80, as a woman, you maintain, you represent
Absolutely.
yourself, you know?
Absolutely, because you're worth it. I think that's where a lot
Right.
of people get that twisted. It's like it's a vanity or no, I deserve to look in the mirror and like the way that I look in the
Right.
mirror. And if red
Right.
lipstick does it, awesome. If blonde hair does it, hell yeah. I'm living for these pink nails right now that you've got.
Right.
Do it.
Hi, Barbie. Let's go
Yes.
party. Like, come on, you
Yes.
know?
I'm so here for it. So and maybe that isn't your thing at all, that's fine too. And there's plenty of girls here that aren't into that. But I think in general, the community that's here likes to look their best. They like to feel
Right.
good. They're working out or they're buying a cute pair of shoes or whatever it is. So I I love that. I
No, no. And I mean, there is that pressure. There is the pressure of, you know, we have this new definition of beauty in society. And now it used to be different in different countries. Now it's kind of melted together. I mean, the BBLs, people are getting things done and they're starting early. They're starting in their 20s now. Like back in the day, older women got Botox and stuff, the ones that admitted it. The rest of them just said they bought a good cream. Now everybody's just like, hey, I just got my lips done, whatever. But it's so hard for women. And these young girls now are thrown into this expectation of how they should look because when you open Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and TikTok and whatever, these people have this unrealistic standard of beauty now. And then us in our 40s, there's those of us that it is so intimidating to, and then there's us. I mean, I feel like you're on this page with me where I'm like, I'm gonna look the best that I can. Like I'm gonna make sure I take care of myself, but I know I'm not gonna look like a 22-year-old no matter what I
you
do.
don't
I
want
can get
to.
and I don't want to. I don't want to,
No, because you know what we look
So
like? Experience. We look
yes,
like we
honey.
know what
Yes.
we want. We look like we know
Yeah.
how to get it.
Yeah. And we do. And we do.
So
And we
that
do.
to
Yeah.
me, that to me is everything. And I just feel like when you have the substance and the life experience to back up the comfortability with your own body and the knowledge of
Right.
your
Right.
sexual preferences, that's freaking unstoppable.
Right. Right. I mean, I saw this picture of it was Jennifer Lopez, Oprah, and Kim Kardashian, right? And it was a picture of the three of them, and I'm looking at them and I'm like, God, they almost all look the same age. Oprah's 69, freaking Jennifer Lopez is in her late 50s, and then you've got Kim Kardashian in her mid 40s. But now they're all looking the same. So it's like, what to me, a 40-year-old doesn't look like, or didn't back in the day, look like we did, or we do, sorry. But now it's like, you've got Oprah, who's almost 70 years old, looking like she's in
Killing
her
it.
30s. Right.
Killing
And
it.
that's okay. And that's
God, I love
okay.
Oprah. I miss
Yeah.
Oprah. I do. I'm sure I could watch her on TV somewhere, but I love her being on the TV in the afternoon and going to my grandma's house and her watching Oprah and ask me if I wanted a cookie.
Oh,
So speaking of, Instagram and the body dysmorphia and comparing yourselves, think about Danica and the kids that are looking at bodybuilders and fitness competitors. That's an entirely different set of standards. And she
right,
and I were talking about it a couple weeks ago. She's like, I grew up backstage at bodybuilding shows looking at like actual perfection. These people
right.
have the perfect bodies. And she would come home from some shows and decide she was going to carry her gallon of water to school the next day. And she was going to pack her chicken and broccoli. And she would get on little kicks where she would get motivated. And I would tell Gabe back then, I don't like that. I don't like
Yeah,
that, I feel like the focus is on the wrong thing. And I just, to hear her say it, it hurt my heart because I just know
yeah,
that's her personal experience in real life, but she's seeing a million other people or circumstances online that are just as, I don't even know what the word is. It's like unrelatable.
right. And I mean,
Sad.
it's scary because we're just expected to just be okay with this and then be comfortable, but then on the flip side it's like, oh, own it, live yourself, and show the wrinkles and all this stuff, but then the world around you is it's unbelievable, and it
Yeah.
does get to you sometimes. I mean, there are some moments where I'm like, oh God, like I can, oh, something's happening
Um,
here,
are you
uh
kidding?
but
I told Gabe yesterday, we were on our way back and I was like, do you see these? The lady that does my facials says that needles are not going to help that. I need surgery. And he was like, what? I was like, well, not right now, but like in the few years, she said it would be more cost effective and simple and it would look more natural if I just had these little fat pads cut out. She said it's genetic, it's not anything. And he's like, there ain't nothing wrong with you. A cheeseburger won't help.
of course, of course,
I don't
of
think that
course.
he's wrong, but I would still have these little fat pieces right here. If you're watching instead of listening, you can see them. But are you trying to get real close to the screen?
I'm
They're
trying to see
there.
you. No,
Trust
they're
me.
there. They're there.
Um,
And this always goes back to when we look in the mirror, we see our imperfections. Other people look at us, they see
yes,
the whole picture. But like I know when I look in the
absolutely.
mirror, what I'm looking at, and I'm like, God, this little Instagram girl who's as my age but has had every body modification in the world, like I'm never gonna look like that. I can work out every day and eat broccoli and chicken for the rest of my life, and I'm never gonna look like that. And I feel like in our 40s, we're given the freedom to say, and I'm okay with that.
Yeah,
I
and I
feel like in
like
our
that.
30s, like we're still held to the standard of like, oh, you can still look 22, 25. In our 40s, we're not expected to. And I feel like people are very forgiving if we say, I'm okay. I'm okay not looking 25 anymore. You
Yeah.
know, I love it. I love my juiciness.
Yeah, I
Hmm.
definitely wouldn't want to look. I look better now than I did in my 20s. I think I was way too worried about building muscle and um that's a different podcast, but the biggest issue I feel like so many women face as they approach 40 is they're just expected to act a certain way, like kind of
Right.
in the same vein of, well, you're supposed to want children or you're expected to want them or you're expected to have this career that you have a boss and all these things. It's like my dad still kills me. He'll say things like, are you having fun with your little t-shirt business? You want to watch my head snap real quick? I can't stand it when he says that kind of stuff. It's so demeaning
Yeah.
and belittling. And he has no
Right.
clue. He has zero
Right.
clue. But my dad can't fathom that I haven't had a boss in 20 years. Like he doesn't understand. I don't know what he
Right.
thinks I've been doing. So expectations to how you're supposed to dress, or people being surprised that you want to dye your hair or that you want to have your nails done or anything like that is so crazy to me. I'm so glad that we're getting away from that, because I do know there are a
Yeah.
ton of women our age that are like giving big middle
Mm-mm.
fingers to everybody that I'm going to wear a crop top if I've got the body for it.
Right.
I'm going to wear my hair however I want, or whatever the case is. I'm going to do a bodybuilding show. I mean, you know how many 50 and 60-year-old women I know that compete in fitness
Mm-hmm.
competitions and are killing it. And I'm sure they're hearing from other people, aren't you a little old to be doing that?
Right.
No, this
Right.
is exactly the age that you should be doing this and showing everybody you have no excuse. You have
Right.
zero excuse.
Exactly. Exactly. It's always the, aren't you a little too old for that? Or shouldn't you be? And don't define what I should and shouldn't be. Like I said, if you want to wear the 3D sweaters, if you want to hang it up and say, no more lashes, no more nails, no more nothing, that's okay. Do that. But don't look down on other women or don't judge someone else because they're not, that's not where they're at. If I'm 80 years old with hot pink nails, that's me. Do you, boo? I'm
Yeah.
good. Let me be me. And I really think that our 40s is that time where we are given that absolute freedom to go either way, and both is accepted, especially now. There are so many more 40-year-old, 50-year-old women that are still just rocking it, killing it. Some even look younger than the 20 and 30-year-olds because these little girls sometimes are doing too much too soon. At least we waited a little bit, to start this. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think it helps that by the time you're in your 40s, you've also gotten rid of all of the dead weight that's not supportive. You know, you don't
hmm,
want in a friend. You know what you won't put up with, what you will negotiate with a little bit on because you appreciate this person's other qualities. I mean, you just have a better
right,
handle of what you want out of your relationships and what you'll tolerate. And so by that point, you do have supportive people around you that are going to help elevate you and are probably going to have less expectations on you than some other people would. But the societal pressures are still there. You are
right,
supposed to have it
right.
all figured out, like we talked about before. And it's also that time in your life where your hormones start doing different stuff than they have for the last few years. And there are plenty of women in their early 40s that are starting menopause or in
Right.
perimenopause.
Perimenopause. Yep.
And I
And
mean,
that's scary.
we could do an entire podcast on hormones
And we
because
will. We could.
we will, because there are so many misconceptions about hormones and how early they should be affecting us. We should not be going into menopause until we're close to 50. So
Right.
all of these women that are starting earlier than that a lot of that is environmental and lifestyle
Absolutely.
choices like alcohol and um
The hormones in our
the
foods, the hormones that are in
exercise,
everything.
the
Right.
sun, all of it. So we do
Right.
need to have a separate podcast about that, but it makes losing weight harder, which can affect your
Oh yeah.
self-esteem. And so I encourage all the women out there to get your hormones checked. If you feel funny, if you feel like you're getting hot certain times a day you didn't before, or you wake up in the middle of the night, you're hot or you're sweating and just don't feel like yourself, definitely get your hormones checked. You can never go wrong getting blood work done.
Right. People don't understand how hormone health is critical to every aspect of your life, to your mental well-being, your physical well-being. Every part of your body is affected by your hormones. And so it is, especially at our age, because I don't know if I'm just going crazy one day or is it because my hormone levels are flip-flopping because my uterus is starting to shrivel a little bit. Okay. Like I don't know. I don't know. So it's
I don't
good.
think you're quite
Women,
there yet.
I know. You never know. I mean, my mom went through it at 40. She was 40 when she started menopause. Like,
Well, maybe, and
girl,
a lot of that can be genetic, so maybe, but we have the tools now with hormone replacement therapy where you don't have to
right,
suffer through it and be miserable the entire time. And
exactly,
there's nothing wrong with restoring your hormone levels to where they should be optimally
right,
at all.
right,
Um, that being said, anybody that knows me and they've listened to the podcast for a while, I don't like birth control. I don't like hormones. Or I don't like putting hormones in my body. We get enough from things like this bullshit that I do drink. So I try to cut my losses where I can. But
hmm,
I've never been on birth control. I can't speak to it much except to say that I just have known and worked with enough girls and women in my coaching that if you can avoid it, avoid it. There are too many natural ways to manage it. And I know there are some medical reasons to use it, but
Yep.
honestly, in most cases, if you go down that rabbit hole, there is no medical use to use it. It just was
Right.
the band-aid. So I think I will die on this hill that it is one of the reasons so many women are having trouble getting pregnant these days. And it's the reason we have higher rates of cancer, endometriosis, all of the things. I will die on that hill. So please come at me if you have a problem with that.
No, I mean, I totally agree. Any type of synthetic hormone is never going to mimic our bodies like it should. And I mean, I've been on birth control for most of my life because every time I got off it, I have PCOS, so my PCOS would go crazy. I would get fibroids and I this growth and all these things. And I mean, I've tried going on, going off, going on, trying different ones, but like I know it's horrible for my body if I don't know. It's yeah.
I get it. And
I'm
the
there with you.
benefits sometimes do outweigh the cons in the short term. And I get that. I
Right.
think a lot of it is education when we're younger, and sex education in school should be better and more comprehensive and more
Hmm.
female focused so that they understand the days of the month they can get pregnant.
Right.
That is to me an education thing. And we weren't in that generation where they
Mm-mm.
knew anything or educated us about anything. And the amount of research that is even done on women is embarrassingly low.
Yes.
So thank God that's getting better, and some companies are being more
Hmm.
proactive and doing research with women, but they have actually done tests on men for drugs that were intended for women.
Hmm.
They're testing them on men to see if they have side effects. It makes no
Right.
sense. So we are
Right.
getting out
Right.
of that, and thank God the girls these days are hopefully more knowledgeable, and they're not learning it from
Yeah.
TikTok. They're learning it from their parents, and they are getting a more comprehensive education. But you can be sure that I've had this conversation with Danica a number of times. Birth control has its place, but it is not ideal. Sexually, I feel like in my 20s, because I was almost in my 20s when I saw a penis in real life for the first time, I felt like, I mean, I just had an appetite for it immediately. I think I enjoyed it. I liked it. I was immediately like, oh my God, what did I wait for? This is so fun. Um, Although I'm still glad I never had sex with a teenage boy. Not mad about that. I don't think I missed
Mm-mm.
out on a
Mm-mm.
thing.
Yeah.
Um, so I was older when I lost my virginity, and then I was in a relationship for like 8 years through my 20s. So it was, it was a free for all, whatever I wanted, however, whatever. You're learning, you're figuring things out.
Mm-hmm.
And then 30s, I was just kind of like, oh, okay, wait a minute. I can just say, hey, no, this is how we're gonna do this. Cause I don't know what,
Right.
it's almost like in your 20s you feel like you're performing more
Yes.
than you're
Yes.
you're
Yes.
enjoying. And
Yes.
I was enjoying it. I loved it. It was fun, but it's definitely not the same when you take the reins in your own hands and you
Right.
aren't you're making sure you're getting what you want out of it. Not that I ever really felt left behind or like I was lacking, because that wasn't the case, but it feels more like a
Right.
performance. And then just the older I
Yes.
got, the more I am making it a performance, but now I'm making it my performance, and I'm going to do
Right.
this how I want to do it. And you're going to watch me, mother.
Right. I am the lead actress. Like I am
Right.
the lead, you know?
Right.
Yeah, I
And
totally agree. I think in our 20s we have this idea of what it's supposed to be like and like, just from stories we hear and movies we watch, so it's like we try to live up to the hype of it. And then you slowly start realizing like, maybe this isn't my hype. And then in your 30s you're like, okay, okay,
okay.
I'm getting it. I see, I see. And also the people that we encounter in our 30s are generally on that same page. So they're a little more open. And then by our 40s, I feel like we're like, okay,
I
I
got
have
this.
arrived. I
Yeah.
have arrived. I
Yeah.
have arrived.
Although I told Gabe last night, I feel like every now and then I unlock a new level. It's like
Oh, yeah.
every now and then I feel like, oh, okay, we're doing that now.
Oh,
All right.
oh,
I really
okay
like
then.
that. We don't want to get carried away though, because we are going to continue this conversation on Tomboy After Dark. If you haven't heard, now you have. We will send more details out as we get everything aired and posted so that you can listen. But that's what's happening there. And actually, by the time we put this up, it will be up. So yeah, I'll put the details in
Right.
the show notes. I think that's good for today. If anybody's got
Yeah,
any questions or anything they want to add to our discussion about being in our 40s and the evolution of getting there and what we expected, we're more than willing to listen to any funny little
right,
quip or something that you might have to say about not being old AF like we thought we were going to be.
right. And that's okay.
In 3D sweaters.
3D sweaters, honey. No
And
3D sweaters for me ever. If you ever see me in a 3D sweater, I swear to God, if you don't snatch it off my body, you are not my friend. Do not let me enter the 3D sweater era ever, ever. Okay?
okay.
Deal?
Yeah.
That's all
Okay,
that
so
matters.
our handles, just so you guys can go check us out, are at Chrissy Nikki is my personal handle, at Tomboy Clubhouse is for the pod.
Oh, it's on Instagram. It is beautiful and bold, BEYOUTIFUL and bold at Instagram.
All right, everybody. You know where we're at. Come find us. If you got any questions, let us know. And we look forward to seeing you next time.
Bye.